Hey Axel,
Marcel, good to
how
see
you
you.
doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So today we're talking martial art movies.
Yes,
It's a
yes.
huge topic.
Massive.
Where do you want to start?
Oh, you can't ask me a question like that. I'm gonna have to pick now.
Oh yeah.
Well, since this is your podcast, you tell me where you'd like to begin. You pick a spot, and we'll go from there.
I'm tempted to say Bruce Lee because
Okay.
he's like
Of course.
the goat when it comes to he's the pretty much the first one who broke out of Asia
The
and
pioneer. Yes, of
became
course.
this global icon.
Mm.
And everybody knows who Bruce Lee is.
Of course.
Go to Africa, they know who Bruce Lee is. You go to Romania, which is where I'm from, and everybody knows who Bruce Lee is. I mean, some people call their children Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I think that shows you just how amazing he was to transcend that many locations, countries, cultures, and have everybody know who he is. It's not many people in life can do that.
True, true.
Mm.
So, Bruce Lee, which movie would you say made an impact on you?
Oh, that's tough. Even though it was never completely finished, I think Game of Death was the one that impacted me the most. And also, I think it was probably unintentionally the first one I saw, because sometimes you end up watching the more recent films than some of their earlier ones. So, yeah, I think Game of Death initially, and then working backwards and so forth. You know. Yeah. What about yourself?
I think the first one I saw was Enter the Dragon. Uh, uh, in Romania, in post-communist Romania, there was this wave of American films that nobody ever saw,
Yeah.
and they used to be smuggled on VHS, and there were these small makeshift theaters where it just had a VCR, a big screen TV, and then just chairs. And it was a very smoky room. Everybody used to smoke back then. So as children, we used to sneak in, and at the end, just watch the movies because we were way too young to watch, violent movies back then.
Yeah.
So I remember it was such an experience. You see this completely different world of martial arts. We had no martial arts in Romania back then. No inspiration, nothing like that. We just had these, war movies and stuff like that. There was nothing like so. Just seeing someone that moves almost like a cat or a snake, or these movements, all that stuff is like, wow, man, that's so awesome.
I think it's always special when you're exposed to something so foreign to what you're used to. Things that you might not necessarily find or see. Just hearing you describe it, that makes it sound like such an enjoyable time when you can suddenly see something and go, wow, there's nothing like that here. Or, for me, I grew up in Asia when I was really young, so not to say that it was unusual, but it's part of the culture, part of the landscape, being exposed to martial art films and martial arts itself. So it wasn't entirely the same for me. It was more like, awesome, we have the representation of this, amazing actor, martial artist, legend who is, pushing Asian Americans and, Asian Australians, Asian everywhere, and I think that's what was most inspiring when I look at it and think about it. When I see it, you just go, wow, I can see myself like that. You have someone you can relate to on screen. I think that was what was impressive for me. And my dad having a collection of all these different martial art movies and would put them on from time to time. We're all big kids at the end of the day. I think so. Even though he was very composed, chilled, would never say much, you could probably tell inside he would be like, let's do it. So, yeah, I think that's really cool that you were exposed to that on the other side of the world too, and we're actually like, wow, this is really exciting.
Yeah, and he had such an amazing life, even though it was cut short.
I mean, it's crazy when you think he died at 32.
Yeah,
that's
younger than I am.
Well, that 2 years ago for me, in terms of, I'm 34. Like, could you imagine? That's just nothing. Like, your life is starting. I feel like at that age, and for him to have accomplished so much is It certainly makes you go, I'm not doing enough with my life, that's for sure.
Damn you, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, I know, how could you be such a legend? But yeah, super impressive, for sure.
What about after Bruce Lee? Who was the next in line for you?
I mean, I think it's the obvious answer for most people, but my dad was a massive fan and had so many Jackie Chan.
Oh God, man.
The legend himself, of course.
Jackie Chan. Man.
It was, I mean, if anything, when I try and recall, I was probably even more aware of Jackie than I was Bruce Lee in the beginning. Because when you think about your earliest memories, I feel seeing more of his stuff than I did Bruce Lee, but obviously aware of it. But I think because there was so many at the time, and he filmed, I think, a few films in Malaysia. So
okay, I didn't know that.
Living there, I think had a big fan base, and so my dad had all these different VHS tapes and everything like that. But yeah, of course, Jackie Chan would have been the next. The next one after that I was just like, wow.
He had that police story trilogy, and then of course Drunken Master. For me, that was the shit. I was watching that movie, and with the jugs of alcohol, and he couldn't fight until he actually got drunk.
That's right.
That fluidity he had in the movement.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And such a ridiculous concept when you think about it. This guy's superpower is
getting
having
drunk.
a drink, you know, and how's that for pushing alcohol marketing? You know
they
what I mean?
probably didn't realize the damage
not
they're
at the time,
causing.
yeah.
70s or 80s, no, early 80s, I think that was.
Yeah. I think Drunken Master one was 78, I think.
Okay, 78.
Yeah. Game changer. I think that's obviously everyone was like, who's this guy? After seeing that, and the athleticism and skill and talent and everything was just.
It was so different from what Bruce Lee did. Because Bruce Lee, it was very dramatic in many aspects, even the way it was shot and the cinematography and everything. Fair enough, it was American, and these were, Asian movies with a different, color grading. There was humor to it. What I really like about Jackie Chan that he incorporates that body humor into pretty much everything, and the way he uses all the objects in the room.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's an interesting one. I think, in my opinion, I feel Bruce Lee took his training, his life, his philosophy seriously. So I feel for him making those films, it was his passion, his belief, his life, his way of being. So I feel like his idea was to fight, like the idea of fighting for yourself, fighting for your beliefs, fighting for people, fighting for whatever it is that's important to you. And so most of all of his films are serious. So I feel that's why there wasn't so much the humor in the context of this is a comedy. It's not. There was humor in the film, obviously, with interactions and things, but it was like, I felt like he approached the subject matter very seriously. And I think you have to, being that kind of first pioneer Asian martial arts star, you want to be the person that is capable, that achieves the goals he sets himself out for, and having the capacity to do so. And I feel, who's going to follow up something like that? Already, if we're talking level of ability, talent, skill, what he's done, how he's done it. Could you imagine being Jackie Chan after that? Like, you can't be Bruce Lee, right? You can only be you. You're the best person to be yourself. And when you have a legend, I certainly wouldn't want to try and follow the exact same things. So I feel Jackie's approach to going comedy was the right thing, because it was a complete opposite. It was offering something different, something new, and adding the stunts. And so it was adding all these layers that you wouldn't get. And again, we wouldn't know because he only ever did 5 films, just to say. So his career was cut short, unfortunately. So we don't really know how that could have transformed and evolved. But I think that was his only option, and clearly it's paid off for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting how he translated later on to the American market, because I'm pretty sure us Europeans, we found out about Jackie Chan maybe before the States, in a way, because he wasn't that known in the US. in the early 80s.
No, I mean, you're going to have obviously your niche people that watch outside films and things like that, but probably to the main masses it wasn't as widely known. And I think a lot of them then start to make a reputation in Asia, and then they try their hand at cracking the US, which obviously hasn't always been easy, I can imagine, because some people love martial arts, some people don't. It's like it's a big pull for some. It's not necessarily for others. So it's always a fine balance. So when they do manage to pull it off, you're always like, wow, that's great, super impressive. It took him a little while, I think, because I know from what I remember, he did a few films, but they didn't blow up maybe as much as he would have wanted or should have. It probably took, I think, till the 90s for it to really go boom,
I think he really went boom in the States with Rush Hour. That was where he got this, international exposure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it was balanced very well because it was a comedy at the end of it. It was a situation of an Asian detective coming to the States, and then you have Chris Tucker, right? Being the comedy aspect of it and just bringing that weird energy and
the dynamic was amazing.
Oh God, yeah.
It was just again the foils of serious, very skilled, comedic, and not as skilled, and just trying to get by, and they each had their talents and qualities to contribute, but it just the dynamic was
so good. I mean, they obviously kind of took a few ideas from the previous buddy cop movies like Lethal Weapon, where you have Mel Gibson and Danny Glover bouncing
the buddy cop
dynamic. So it was taken in a completely interracial, culturally weird place where you had this Black American and then you have the Asian detective, and it's like wow, how does that work? And it worked. It worked like magic.
But just to add a little part in there, I think Rush Hour, solidified Jackie in the West internationally, but I feel his breakout was with Rumble in the Bronx. When that came out, I think then the West were like, wow, this guy's amazing. Who is this guy? At least to the wider masses, because I think it did really well in the US, and then I believe that might have been back end of the 80s, like to early 90s, and then that's when the wave of Jackie Chan First Strike, Mr. Nice Guy, and then Rush Hour, and then all the rest of the films started flooding in after that, and well deserved, because Jackie's been working for a really long time.
I think he was way in his 40s by then. Way in his
still
40s.
Killing it.
Oh God, he still does. I just seen a movie with him. Just trying to remember the name. With Pierce Brosnan, he's in
The Foreigner.
Yes, and directed by I think it's Campbell, the guy who directed.
Marlon Campbell.
I'll Google it. It's the director who directed the Casino Royale, the Bond movie.
Yes. Who also did GoldenEye, right? Yeah, I believe Casino Royale was the same director who did GoldenEye for Pierce Brosnan. I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
But if it's Campbell, then
Campbell.
I think it's
I can't remember his first name.
We'll check that.
Yeah, we'll check that. He's 65, I think, something like that, and he's like still kicking ass. And his acting improved so much. Like this wasn't the general action movie.
Yeah.
He's this father who's he lost his daughter in an attack, and he's like really
big dramatic
turn. It's like, whoa, look at Jackie Chan, man.
Yeah.
Totally see him as having that gravitas, that heaviness that role required.
Well, I think as well, I'm sure you understand this as well, that sometimes you don't get the chance to fully use all your capacities, especially if he's been doing a lot of action comedies. He probably didn't get as much chances to do more dramatic roles, so he probably really lent into that, and especially in the West, right? Because most of the Western films he's done have been more funny.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like you say, here comes this dark, dramatic piece, and I think he's like, okay, let's put my fangs into this.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was
you
great.
really went for it. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I would have even, really love to have seen what it would have been had that been a film he'd done when he was younger in the West. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
because obviously he still kills it, but it would have been imagine something like when he was like a Police Story, you know, physique peak, and then do something dramatic in the West with that. That would have been, I think, that would have been pretty killer.
yeah,
well.
yeah,
But yeah, no, that was and it was filmed here in London as well.
yeah, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So that was quite cool.
Jackie Chan, yeah, such an icon.
Mm.
And then in the 80s and early 90s, there were a lot of B movies, action movies. I remember seeing American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, and which weren't particularly good, but you know, I mean, they had their place.
So bad they're good.
Yes, they had their place somehow. And they were Lorenzo Lamas movies, and it's just a lot of Don the Dragon, Wilson.
Yes, yes. I'm trying to remember some of the ones. Like this is going to be even more crazy. But I remember when I was younger, there used to be what was it called? Is it the Three Little Ninjas? Do you remember that?
Oh God, yes. Part of me wishes I didn't, but yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
yes.
God, Three Little
I remember
Ninjas.
watching those movies so much when I was younger. It was just the little concept of these
These kids who know how to
beating these grown ass
men. I mean, looking at it now, it's like it's completely insane. Even if you do kick someone like that, I mean, like literally, like they were weighing 4 times as much as them.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it.
It would not have done nothing. But
oh God,
it was that 90s nostalgia, right? That 80s, 90s nostalgia. It was lots of little things like that.
So we had Bruce Lee, and then we had Jackie Chan. So late 70s, 80s, going into the 90s, and then I think at the end of the 80s, early 90s, that's when we had the B movies coming out. Quite a few B movies, but they kind of went out of fashion a bit.
Yeah.
The martial art movies, and I feel like it was Jean-Claude Van Damme who kind of brought a new dynamic to the movies. They were a bit bloodier and grittier, and the first movie that I saw, no, actually the first movie that he did, I think, was Black Eagle, and he wasn't the main character there.
Okay.
So I don't know who the main character was. It was again a B movie. He plays this Russian, even though he's not Russian, he can't do a Russian accent for the fuck of it, but doesn't matter.
We're not here to judge, but yeah.
And he's this, bad Russian agent, and he just fights the main character who's Asian, who has an accent but works for the CIA. It doesn't
in the context. Watching, sure. Okay.
And then he had these splits on 2 barrels and just throwing knives, and it's like, whoa! And he had the physique that was, he was probably 25, 26-ish, and doing the splits and just being really badass. And then he did another movie called No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yes.
Where you actually have the ghost of Bruce Lee teaching a kid to fight. It's ludicrous, but it wasn't a bad movie. So it was a B movie with very little budget. Again, Van Damme's the bad guy there, beats everybody up, and then there's this kid, and he goes and prays at Bruce Lee's tombstone, and then his ghost appears and teaches him the way of the dragon.
I mean, listen, if you're going to reference or use a mentor, who better than to use that?
Yeah. It was insane. But it had a good soundtrack.
That, but it's been so long. I'll have to definitely check it again, much to my dismay. But yes,
it's one of those movies where you can just throw your mind away, and it's really nostalgic. But then he did Kickboxer, which was a B movie by all aspects, budget wise. They just went to Thailand, shot it there, and I recall listening to a Q&A with the director, and they had to advertise the movie with flyers back then. There
Of
was
course.
no social media or anything like that.
Different time.
Yeah. And Bloodsport, so Bloodsport was the first one with the Kumite thing.
Yeah.
That was even lower budget.
Just put him on the map.
Yeah. Very interesting. How do you feel about Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I grew up watching him too. I remember my dad had VHSs as well. I think it was, like you said, something fresh, something different. Very totally different to the other ones too. So I think that's what was part of the appeal. It wasn't just the same but recycled. It was different. It had like a different approach, different type of casting type.
Different kind of martial arts, because all that before that we had kung fu and karate,
Yeah,
and now we had kickboxing
and also more Western oriented production. In terms of in terms of subject matter and what would happen and how they do it. Like it was very it was a different approach, and I thought that was interesting too. So I actually enjoyed Van Damme a lot. I mean, you can't deny the splits and the physicality. And growing up, I was like, well, this guy's a cool dude, man. He's like fighting. I remember like a scene that always has stayed with me, just because it was just so ridiculous but so impressive. I think it's a time cop, and he goes in the kitchen, and, and he's in his boxes.
Yes.
And he just jumps and he does the splits on the kitchen. And
Yeah.
it was,
Water and
like,
then electricity, and then like, who comes up with this?
but
shit?
just I was like, wow.
Yeah. But he was by that point he was huge. He was a huge star because he started with small B productions, and he introduced new martial arts, kickboxing and Muay Thai. Nobody heard of Muay Thai before that. It's like, oh, elbows, knees, and all that stuff. So that was cool. And then he did a death warrant when he's in the prison.
Yes.
And then he did Lionheart, which was again cool French legionnaire. He was French once, I think, in his career.
Otherwise, absolutely. Close enough.
In Time Cop, his name was Walker.
Yeah.
I'm like, how does that work?
That's okay.
Walker, okay.
I remember a lot of people didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it when I was younger. There's just something cool about it. I don't know what it was. Double Team. With him in the
It's
drummer.
so bad, it's good.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, it was. I just remember enjoying the set pieces, everything that it was. I don't know. There's just something about it. It had something.
Yes. But it had Mickey Rourke as a baddie. Again, that's he's good. He's good at that stuff. And lions and babies and it was mad. Like Simon Says. Yeah,
just that final fight and the foots on the mine.
Oh yeah. In the arena, there was this. Come on, man. Yeah, it's completely crazy.
I just remember, you always have a guilty pleasure film that you watch. I just remember that it just impressed me when I was younger.
It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie
No.
either, because he did a couple of bad movies, like he did Derailed. Unfortunately for everyone who was a Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, it's like, oh my, I really wanted to find something about that movie that it was, it took the whole train thing from the Steven Seagal movie, and just
you can't win them all.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't win them all,
but I mean, we have to talk about Universal Soldier. Now that was a badass blockbuster movie, like a proper badass movie.
I remember it being really dark. I remember when I was younger, I was like, "Wow, this is heavy, very heavy." Like I remember almost treating it like a bit of a horror film. I almost didn't want to watch it. I remember when it was first shown to me, I was like, "Oh my god, this is."
But even the opening scene, when they kill each other, right, and then the body bag, and even now I remember the opening. Zip goes up, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Then zip goes up, Dolph Lundgren. These guys are dead. You're starting the movie with two dead guys.
And that's the end of the film. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and then the whole concept
Short film.
the whole concept, like bringing back dead soldiers and making them in these superhuman things, and the whole movie, like I can watch it even now again. It didn't age badly. they didn't have a CGI there. Everything was practical effects, explosions.
Yeah.
You know, the fight scenes were really, really cool.
Yeah.
You know, when he's in the diner and doesn't have any money and just eating stuff, and then the chef comes out. Are you gonna pay for that?
Classics.
Pay for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, sometimes you're just fortunate enough to get a few timeless ones where you can just watch them and watch them and watch them, and they don't age, like you say. I think Universal Soldier was definitely one of them.
The first one.
The ones that came after that. Yes.
Because after that, yeah, everything else. I think they still want to do a couple. I'm like, just please leave it alone. Let it rest.
They don't need to come back anymore.
No,
It's
no.
okay.
Actually, there's an alternative scene. There was a different ending where he gets shot by police at the end of it. So that's how the
Really?
studios envisioned.
Okay.
After he kills the Franklin in the meat grinder thingy, police show up and they shoot him and he dies. That's how the director wanted to end the movie, and apparently,
They didn't test it.
franchise-wise, maybe we can
No,
leave it
yeah.
open.
You need to make some
Yeah.
money. Okay, that makes sense.
And then it was actually Jean-Claude Van Damme who brought John Woo over.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so what's the name of Hard Target. So before Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, John Woo did
Yeah.
for Jean-Claude Van Damme, he did Hard Target, when he has the long
Of
hair,
course.
and yeah, that was a good movie. Lance Henriksen as a baddie.
Oh, it's taken me back now. I haven't seen Hard Target in such a long time. You inspired me. I may have to go watch it.
Yeah,
after.
another movie that I think aged pretty well. I probably watch that movie every 2 or 3 years when I just want to, take my brain, throw it
Yeah.
out the window. But the action scenes are so impressive. I mean, every now and then you can see, for certain scenes, the stunt double. It's not Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's fine. On a motorcycle when he's doing the
It's
jump,
okay.
it's fine.
We'll accept it.
Yeah, we'll accept it. But the scenes are so well done, so well done. And I think John Woo still has that. He understands fight choreography a lot better. This is before the quick takes when Liam Neeson kind of look. I'm in the 70s and I'm
Yeah.
kicking ass here.
Got to make them look
Yeah,
effective.
like the motorcycle coming in this slow motion where he jumps from the side of the car and just hits the guy in the helmet and then bike flips off. Like those are so cool,
Yeah, the
so
badass
cool.
moments.
Yeah.
That period of time had a lot of those in cinema. They used to do all these practical stunts and everything. And I remember you just go, wow. And then came CGI.
And they are dangerous because some
Oh, of
people
course.
died and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But I think it still looks so much better than CGI. I have nothing against CGI, but it kind of made those movies feel real. And at some point,
Grounded them a bit more.
I thought that it was just because I was a child, and maybe that's why I could buy the fantasy. But then I go and revisit those movies as an adult and someone who kind of understands the industry a bit more, and I still look at those movies and I'm like, well, actually believe that could be done, in a way. You could kick that guy in the face while he's riding the bike. You could flip over a car from a motorcycle and do that thing and then turn around and shoot, because in theory you could. I mean, there's gravity and it's still there, like in today's movies where
You
there's
didn't
no
have to
such thing
suspend
as
your disbelief that
completely.
much.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes those films more effective than ones that are heavily CGI. Like you say, it makes it feel tangible, makes it feel like, yeah, this could happen if you were lucky enough.
Well, I mean, you probably have a bit of grazes and
Just a bit, a bruise or two.
a bruise or two. You don't have bruises. They don't believe it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. Who bruises? He
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's
Yeah.
just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, his lifetime went completely, drugs and stuff like that. And
I'll be honest, I'm surprised more haven't fallen down that path. It's imagine you making loads of money, you've got all this success. It's going to be all sorts of temptation being thrown at you. I'm not entirely surprised that Jean-Claude went down that way. But again, disappointing if you're a fan, because obviously you want them to be at their best for as long as they can be, but sometimes these things happen. And I think we forget that they're not just superheroes, they're
That's
people
true.
too.
Yeah, they're human, and the saying like don't meet your heroes because they're gonna turn out to be human.
Yeah,
and
they're going to be disappointing, or they're going to disappoint you in some way. So I think it's our fault as fans to create this pedestal image of them
yeah,
when they're, just like everybody else with weaknesses or vices, I guess.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, I feel like it's not like he hasn't lived, right?
Yeah, he's still around. He's still doing movies, still kicking ass.
Oh God, he just Street Fighter.
Yeah. Oh, that movie did not age well.
You know, I remember playing the game religiously, and this was in Malaysia when it came out, and I remember seeing the poster, and I was like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And you realize that Ryu and Ken, who arguably should be the main characters, were relegated to just a couple of nobodies. And you had Jean-Claude Van Damme doing Guy, which I thought was not bad casting at the time.
The all-American.
Yeah.
All-American soldier.
He
with an
looked the
accent.
part. I mean,
The weird die.
Yeah, and Bison is what killed me because unfortunately the actor was sick at the time. But
Yeah, cancer. I
yeah,
think, yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, great actor, but it was just you see Bison in the game and he's this jock,
Yeah,
this
it's
massive
yeah.
meathead jock, and when you see him, it was
Frail. He
skinny
looked
and-
frail. Yeah.
so it was
They did try to put a lot of stuff on him to make him look bigger than he was.
yeah.
But I think I liked him as a villain. It was good, but everything else, I tried to revisit it probably about 2 years ago when I did an episode on Jean-Claude Van Damme,
Yeah,
and I just looked at the production design and the colors and the acting and pretty much everything. I was like, wow,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
this is a catastrophe.
I heard it was a very crazy production as well. So.
I mean, he was on coke like half of the times.
Sonic boom.
Yes. So apparently he was, but it was that dark period of his life when he was like this major star. He could command like 10 million, 15 million per movie, and he wanted 20 at some point, and he got really greedy, and that's when the studios kind of dropped him from production. So he was on top of the world. At some point, he was bigger than Brad Pitt in terms of how commercially viable he was for studios. So he knew that. Ego and everything else. But that movie was just. I love the game again, and then the movie was like.
And I don't know if you remember this, but they released a game but based with the movie.
Yes, which I was excited about, but the game was clunky and just no.
And just Blanca was
Yeah.
the issue for me. I just saw Blanca and I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I suppose a green monster guy with electricity was always going to be quite difficult to.
Yeah, it was gonna be difficult. Yeah, the whole movie was just. Now that I think about it, I remember that Kylie Minogue was in it and she was hot, and that kind of saved half the movie. Just put her there.
One of Australia's best,
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Chun-Li was quite a small role again. Yeah.
Like all these big characters just became just an extra.
Yeah, pretty much. There was a couple of weird, funny scenes, like when all the soldiers come with the gun and he takes the knife out.
Sagat.
Oh God! Oh, he's that Native American actor who was in the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, but he's so big in the game. He's
Yeah.
like this monster, and he just looked like a Bond villain in the film. It was just
just a copy-paste Bond villain. Oh God!
But like, I think sometimes they forget when you're doing something like a video game that's a fighting game, the characters need to look jacked. They need to look athletic. So when you have a guy that's wearing a suit but he's looking like, Blofeld, you're a bit like, I'm not seeing him tiger kneeing anybody right now.
No, it's weird. That was not a successful adaptation. However, we have Mortal Kombat. We have to talk about the first Mortal Kombat. That's 96, I think.
I would say of that time, best video game adaptation for me.
I completely agree. I like that.
I was such a big fan. I mean, I think if we rewatch it now, it will probably feel slightly dated, but I think at the time, with what they had, I think they did a great job. I thought all the actors looked great. Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage. I think it was perfect. Just sometimes you go imagine how it would have been with the CGI we have now.
Well, they redid a version of Mortal Kombat 2 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Did you watch it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
What I liked the action bit of it. I just didn't care much for any of the characters, and I think that's an issue with the writing. And they did a very so. Right now, I can't recall exactly what was happening. It wasn't a tournament anymore. It was like a revenge story.
It's like the setup for the tournament.
Yes. But somehow, I don't know, the characters weren't really...
Yeah, again, I was excited. I was hoping that it would, kind of break the video game adaptation curse, so to speak. I think some people just don't really understand what makes it what it is. So there were some choices where I thought to myself, are you really understanding what the game is about? Like I know it's more than just the flashy moves and the fighting, but it all has to make sense and it all has to feel, I think, true to the game, because that's why the fans are there. You're not going to try and convince someone who's never played the game and has never seen the movie to suddenly love it. Like I feel like you still need to stick with why you're making it. For people that go, oh, I've played the video game, I love it, I'm going to watch the film. So I think when you forget that and you try and market it to people who have had no interest or don't, it's a tough sell. Unless you just pull off what you know very well, then I think people will appreciate it. But yeah, it's just, it was, I had mixed feelings about it. There were parts I enjoyed, parts where I was like, this doesn't feel like Mortal Kombat. But listen, at one point, hopefully they'll get it right.
Yeah, I mean, the first one, I think, they didn't have the proper CGI. Goro just looked weird.
Back then, great, but
now. Exactly. But everything else was really good, good. The moves, the casting, the
soundtrack. Always get hyped.
No way, I can listen. Yeah, it's so good. This techno, oh god.
And Christopher Lambert.
I think it was a really good choice.
It was an unusual choice, but it worked.
Yeah, you put a Highlander to become Lord Raider.
Yeah.
And because he had that delivery, I don't know.
It was such an unusual delivery that it made sense.
Yes, because he was God of Thunder, right? So the whole casting was good, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be Johnny Cage.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that where they got the character from?
Yes.
Because of the splits.
But he had to choose between the two movies because they were shot roughly at the same time. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Ooh, that would have been pretty cool.
And because in one, Johnny Cage is not the main character, so hence the reason why he didn't choose that movie. He just went on with...
No, that makes sense.
Put his face out there. Bad call, but yeah.
That would have been very cool, though. That would have been so interesting. Yeah.
And then there was a second one that came out just a year after that, which wasn't... They changed. They killed off Johnny Cage really quickly. They changed Lord Raiden with a different actor.
So yeah, I remember watching going, why did they change all these actors? They changed the actor that played Raiden. They changed Sonya Blade's actor. Like, I think that made, and it also kind of felt a little bit more B-movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a shame because they added all these new characters. You're like, wow, this is going to escalate. Great. Like the end of the first one, you're like, it's on. The second one is going to be fantastic. And then you come in and you watch it and you're just like, it's this massive cosplay free-for-all that's,
That's exactly what my
I was like, the costumes don't look as cool. What's happening? Like,
yeah.
I mean, as a fan, I was like, okay, cool. I recognize this character, this character, this character, this character. But then it was just like, oh,
Yeah. Weird.
missed opportunity. But
But still part of the martial arts movies.
that's it. I mean, growing up,
history.
yeah, absolutely.
It's right.
But the Mortal Kombat 1, definitely. I just to come back to that real quickly, that in the forest, and then the spear comes out. Oh,
Yeah, Scorpio. Go here.
yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
good.
yeah,
I just
the whole
remember that
scene
being-
was, yeah, no, that looked cool.
Yeah.
It's true.
was awesome, so awesome.
Yeah, it's good. And Sub-Zero when they just freeze the guy and he drops and it falls into pieces. Wow,
Yeah,
that's cool.
that
Yeah.
was the ninjas were definitely very cool in that film. And then Reptile after.
Reptile, yeah, that's where the clunky CGI is.
And then he
yeah.
goes into the body, and the body wakes up and becomes the green.
Really
That was
good, really good idea. Yeah, I like that. So they had really good concepts.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the second one, just the second one, and then they did a TV series, which, yeah, it was. I still watched them because I was still relatively young, and I still watched the TV series, but I didn't feel. I wasn't invested anymore.
No.
I'm like, okay. Yeah.
And do you remember the animation? They made like a cartoon animation.
Yes.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, they tried to create this whole, industry around it, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I think they still did a lot of, 20-minute episodes all the way through the 2000s of different characters. I'm like, okay, kind of, you lost me. So yeah, I was really hoping for the reboot to be something more than it was. Yeah, Mortal Kombat.
Well, they're making a second one, so we'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed.
Do you know what? I'll watch it. And I think the child in me would push me to watch the movie. Not that I really expect anything from it, but I'll watch it. Yeah.
Got to support the action genre.
Yeah. I don't want to let that die. So we went from Jean-Claude Van Damme to Mortal Kombat. We kind of jumped over another global icon who's I think he's 82 or 83 now, still kicking. Chuck Norris.
Yes.
Chuck Norris. Yeah, man.
King of the memes, yes, of course.
Oh God.
And it's like, where did it come from? It just
Fans.
blew up. Yeah, it just went nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy,
And interestingly enough, I wasn't exposed to much Chuck Norris work. Obviously, the fight he has with Bruce Lee was a standout in Way of the Dragon, but after that, it was kind of just here and there. Not for any particular reason. I just think it wasn't. I think it was that transitional stage because he started to get big after the fight scene with Bruce.
Yes.
But I think what happened was as I was getting older, I got pulled into different areas of cinema, so I was watching other things. So perhaps I skipped over it a few times, but I remember like Delta Force and
Delta Force, missing in action, 1, 2.
Yeah.
He keeps missing in action, 3. And at some point his son is in one of them, and I'm like, oh man.
Funnily enough, I actually had more familiarity with Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh God, man. Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah.
But that's
that's true. Yeah.
That's where it was. I was more familiar with it after that. But yeah, I mean, he's a legend, of course.
Yeah, it's so weird because he's a legend, right? But in terms of the movies and the popularity of the movies, I don't think he was as big as everybody else. Maybe it's just me, and I might very well be wrong about this.
I think he didn't do it for as long, or at least maybe didn't want to for as much as some of the other action stars of the time. And also, if I'm not mistaken, he might have been the first American action star, martial arts based, if I'm not mistaken. After that, I think after that fight with Bruce Lee, he kind of became the pioneer for that American figure that is the main character, martial arts action, because a lot of them was more guns and
Westerns. Yeah, all the way to the 70s.
gunslingers,
Yeah.
and police, detectives, noir, those type of things. But I feel like he brought that first depiction of a Westerner using martial arts in an action film, prior to, because I think Van Damme and all that came up right alongside more so after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like he was that first door opener to expose them to that, and then the big boys came in after
The
that.
big boys,
Yeah.
But somehow he still,
That was great.
when he showed up in the second Expendables, I was
Honestly.
like, come on, man.
This
The
is
kid
great.
in me was like,
This is so good.
Chuck Norris is here.
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, I think that for me was peak Expendable for sure. Like number 2 was just
Yeah.
especially with Jean-Claude being the
The
bad
bad
guy.
guy. And his name is Villain.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Most generic thing you can come up
Great.
with. And it's like,
Absolutely great.
yeah.
I was reading an article the other day actually. It would have been very interesting to see, but again, who are they going to use as the bad guy? But it would have been great if Jean-Claude was part of the team too. It would have been interesting to see that dynamic
Yes.
as well. Because obviously they need good villains, but I think when you look at all those action stars, then the whole appeal is they're on the team.
Yeah.
That's why Expendables 1, everyone's like, what? You've got Jet Li, Jason Statham, Stallone, and then obviously the second one they could get Bruce Willis and Schwarzenegger on the same team.
On the same team,
But
yeah.
that's what I mean. You have all of them in the team. That's what was like, wow.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I just feel, but I get it. You need a strong villain, otherwise it doesn't work. But I just think that would have been really cool if you had
Yeah.
Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude,
All in the same one, yeah.
that Wesley Snipes. Like Wesley came in on the third one,
The third one, yeah.
but imagine.
They kind of lost, a bit of the appeal for me after the second one.
No, I think the
As
second
much as
one-
I loved Mel Gibson as a
The bad
baddie,
guy.
I think he lifted the whole movie.
Of
He
course.
has this presence with
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
still has those piercing blue eyes
Yeah.
and the voice and the
I mean, Lethal Weapon. Come on.
oh man, yeah.
But it was just, I almost feel like, how did they not get Jackie in there?
I think because they had Jet Li and
just
they
to
were
say-
like,
But just to say, it's they were all at that time. I think that would have been really cool too. But I see what you're saying. But just like you say, if you're going to do the dream team of action stars,
yeah,
get them all.
yeah. I think Jackie Chan should have been there. In a way, he got kind of robbed by that. But Jet Li, since we got to him, like he came in, I think with was it Romeo Must Die? Was this his first one?
Lethal Weapon 4 is when he got exposed to the West.
Yes,
He was the
true,
bad guy.
true. Yeah. With the pearls that he's just counting and just killing people and kicking Murtaz and
In
Rick's
the house,
ass.
the first time they see him in the
Yeah.
house, and he walks down the stairs.
He just jumps and then kicks the gun and just
Yeah,
disassembles the gun in their
yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
Oh, and the flexibility that guy shows up crazy.
And it's interesting. So I feel like Jet Li was I guess after Bruce Lee, everyone has a preference on Jackie, Jet Li, and the third dragon, Donnie Yen. And so I felt for me, Jet Li was, I gravitated to him a lot with his work. I don't know what it was. There was just something about, I think I liked how he kept a little bit of Bruce Lee style, which is, there's no joking here. There's no, we're not messing around.
quiet,
We're not laughing.
stoic.
Yeah, we're not laughing. He's going to walk into a room. No one's walking out of that room, right?
Yeah.
And so seeing him in Lethal Weapon, and then obviously seeing his work like Once Upon a Time in China, a lot of his stuff in Hong Kong, Fist of Legend.
Yes, Mr. Legend. Yeah.
You're just like this phenomenal performer, like of the highest level, wushu champion. Just watching him fight and his athletic ability was just so crazy. His lines were perfect. Like everything was just,
Yeah, he brought a brand new style of martial arts. And I think it's interesting because now that we are having this conversation, I'm just how we jump as fans from one martial art and then someone else coming with something else, and then, oh, this is so cool. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, this is so cool. Yeah.
But yeah, Romeo Must Die, coming back to what you said, was his main lead foray after Lethal Weapon, and it was good, but I think it shocked fans a bit because they used a lot of wire work unnecessarily, and it became a little bit floaty and odd. Like it was almost half fantasy, half grounded film, and I was a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see him like do it without all these kind of special effects in that sense, because it felt like a great gang love story with Alia.
Yeah. Yeah, she died right after that movie, right?
Which was a shame. And it just felt like I remember this sequence. I think it was in the warehouse. He's fighting. I remember it was by a railing, and he does like a jump kick, but then after jump kick, he just does an automatic aerial turn and kicks the person behind.
Which, yeah.
But again, if we have context, like it's a superhero film or something, sure. But it broke.
Yeah, it's not grounded in reality anymore.
So I enjoyed it for what it was, and then I think he got the feedback from the fans, and then that's when he dropped my favorite film, Kiss of the Dragon.
Yeah.
When he goes to Paris, like that for me, I can't tell you. I've watched that film so many times. I just love that. Like he just, that fish out of water. You're in a different country, different environment. You're alone. You have no help, and he's just this badass with his acupuncture needles.
Yes. Yeah.
It was just. I remember all the set pieces. It was amazing. I remember watching that in the cinema, and I was like, this is an action film. This is martial arts action. It's just great. From that sequence in the hotel, from when the guy he's supposed to protect gets killed, and then he goes down the ventilation shaft.
Yeah. That's the shit.
And I think there might have been a couple of parts in the film where they pushed it a little bit, bending the rules of physics a little bit, but I'll allow it. It was that good. Like
sometimes
with the pool ball,
yes,
on the billet table. Yeah, don't try that at home. Like,
did you try that?
And then I realized you can't unless you have steel cap boots. There's no way. Like, even if you're gonna football it, like, could you imagine just the first part, your foot's broken?
No, yeah. I mean that's solid. Like, no way, you can break a bone.
So cool. Though.
Yeah.
Just
imagine hitting your shin or something. Ooh.
Oh.
Just the thought of it. Just no. Yeah.
I just thought it was such.
Yeah, Jet Li was such a breath of fresh air, but he kind of came and went really kind of quickly. I think he had War after that with Jason Statham, which was part sci-fi, part
the one as well. Don't forget. Before, which I thought was a really cool concept in the idea. It's this crazy sci-fi. There's more than one of him, and they all have different styles of martial arts. And if one dies, they get stronger. I thought that was a really, really good concept.
Really good concept.
And that's Jason before he became what he has, and even had a little bit of hair on the side here.
Oh yeah, I remember he used to have hair.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, the transporter. Like, oh, this guy can fight.
But great film.
The first one.
Yeah. Honestly,
was really, really good.
I would say one of his best for sure. I
Even
was like,
now,
this is amazing. Really
good.
It just worked. I was like, wow, this is So it's so interesting to see their journey from him being a side character in the one, and then later when Jason was more established, they're in the war together, as you said.
Yeah.
I just always think it's so interesting to see these action actors' journey through the process of their films and everything.
Because if you wouldn't have the transporter, maybe he would have stayed like a character actor and never really become this action star that he is today, with his ups and downs and second part and third part, when just changes completely.
And funny enough, same thing. I think the first one had the tone great, but story aside, I think what maybe made the progressive sequels not as loved, I think, is because they pushed the physics a bit too far.
Yes,
at times, unnecessarily.
Completely
so.
agree.
I think at one point he's got the bomb under the car.
There's the third one, and then there's this
Yeah.
magnet, and it's like,
And I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the film has to be believable, but let's not push it too
too
far.
far. Yes, yeah. Just
You know?
it's the same way as the Fast and Furious, which we're not going to cover now because they just became this
Of course.
weird stuff where
Yeah.
no, just leave it. You either do one thing or the other.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways to keep your brand fresh, but
It's like constant rebranding in a way.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Yeah.
But so Jet Li, as you said, then he went to war with Jason Statham, and then I think he got sick, which is why he stopped and he disappeared.
I did not know
I
that.
don't know exactly what the condition was, but he pulled away from film because I think he developed an illness or something with his eyes. There was something, and it changed a bit of his structure because he doesn't look the same like he used to, which is a shame because he was phenomenally talented. And that's why not many people had heard from him for a while. He went and did other things, but yeah, he was sick for a while, and it's a shame,
Well, if he did the first Expendables, Happy
Second
Feet. Oh man, the joke.
Yeah.
You should pay me more because I have shorter legs than that. But yeah, again, the humor there was.
When he was fighting Dolph and Dolph was going to kill him, I was like, what?
Yeah, I mean, Dolph Lundgren is really big. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
physicality wise, and he's Ivan Drago. He had cancer, Dolph Lundgren. So that's why he lost a lot of weight. And if you look at the Expendables now, it's like he doesn't look like
What he used to.
like what we used to. But yeah, that fight scene was a bit. But I enjoyed it.
No,
It was-
absolutely. No, I mean more because I guess when you imagine Jet Li, I would imagine he would have handled him pretty well.
Yeah, definitely kick some Dolph ass.
Yeah,
As much as I like Dolph Lundgren, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially with the legacy, with the movie legacy wise, because the movies he did, and Dolph Lundgren kind of went into a B movie.
Yeah, of course.
Career, which is a shame because I really liked him as Andrew Scott, Sergeant Andrew Scott in the U.S. Army with his all ears
Yeah.
chain, which is really badass. So yeah, I would have liked to see more of Dolph Lundgren. Yeah, that's just his career. I was happy that they brought him back with the Expendables. I think he deserves, for that and Ivan Drago as baddies, he deserves a place there.
Absolutely. Also, I don't know if you saw the Creeds.
Yeah, the new ones.
Like his little appearance was, I think, appreciated. Like
Yeah.
it was a nice throwback.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but again, it's not a martial arts movie, so I don't want to go
No, of course,
too much
we're
into
going
that.
off
But
topic,
yeah,
but just to say when you talk about...
he deserves respect, I think.
Yeah.
Even though he's not necessarily a martial artist, he was a champion, a karate champion,
Mm-hmm.
but he's not necessarily just a martial. He was more like an action star who never quite became the legend he could have become in other circumstances.
Yeah.
I believe we have to mention Steven Seagal.
Of course.
Because again, he was in
The man, the myth, the legend.
yes, with all his shit that he has a lot of bad rap at the moment in the industry, like just being not a very nice person to work with and just hurting people and stunt people and just not being very careful. But when he was again breath of fresh air when Aikido was introduced.
Listen, Under Siege 1, that's never get old. That film, honestly, I remember watching it. Like, what is going on? This is great.
Yes. Yeah, that was really with Tommy Lee Jones as a baddie, and he's just throwing people around, and he's really good at Aikido. That's just he was, I think, probably at that point the only sensei in Japan who was actually teaching Japanese people.
The only non-Asian.
Yeah.
So I heard that too. That apparently he had special treatment because of the level of skill in his martial art.
And he did a couple of movies. I'm trying to remember. So Under Siege wasn't his first one. The first one was in Romania. It was called Nico. I don't know what the American title was for that movie. With William Forsythe, he was the junkie baddie. A very gritty movie. Uh,
Again, same thing. I think Under Siege is what I was first exposed to, so I'm trying to remember the film you're talking about.
he's a cop, and then oh, it's called Above the Law. Thank you. Yeah. Above the Law.
Above the Law.
Yeah, he had a couple of movies, and then he just went on a B movie,
Went on the B slide.
and now C slide. I think if there's or D, if there's any, he keeps doing these movies,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 per year. I think shot in Bulgaria or wherever, and posing to be the States, and just very very low budget kind of thing. And then he became a sheriff in the States.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm like, okay, and he has weird stuff.
Again, coming back to what we said with Van Damme, you don't really know what they're like in person, on a personal level. So sometimes, yeah, they're not the people we see in the film.
Yes, but they're selling it so well.
They sell it so well. That's the
So
job, I suppose.
okay, we covered Jet Li. Maybe talk about Tony Jaa. I saw the first
Wow.
Ong Bak. I was blown the fuck away.
My uncle, actually, who is French, did not even know. I had no idea he liked martial art films, and I remember I was in high school at the time, and he came over, had some DVDs, and said to my mum, "You need to show your son this." And she was like, "He said this is great. It's a Thai film, no subtitles. Didn't even know what. It doesn't matter about the story. You need to watch this." I was like, "What are they talking?" Watched it. Wow, like I was like you, blown away by everything. It was. I was like, this guy is unbelievable. So physically gifted, and it just reminded you of seeing Jackie Chan for the first time.
Yes, somehow, but a completely different.
Again, went a different approach.
Yeah.
Went the approach of tricking mixed with the martial arts, with the jumping and the flips, using Muay Thai and using elbows and knees, and so the fight style was completely different. And then on top of that, would actually hit the people, which is what gave it such a shock value, because I don't think people were expecting it. You feel each hit, each time you hit someone, you went, oh.
Yeah, when he jumps up with his knees down, I'm like, I really don't want to be that stunt guy.
And when they're in that private fight den, and he knees the guy out the window, but like you can see it chest to head. I was just thinking to myself, "Oh, that stuntman's going to wake up with broken bone for sure." Or even the guy with the long hair, and he face kicks him straight, like you can see it, the powder and everything. Just,
but imagine how precise that dude has to be able to not really hurt people, because you make one mistake, one stunt guy's out. So I mean, I don't think they had like a million stunt guys there.
At this point, I'm pretty sure they were like, "There's only going to be one good take, so we're going to go in with this 100%."
It's mad how just accurate you have to be with those movements, because like literally 2 centimeters to the left or to the right, you're gonna knock someone the hell out.
Just unparalleled ability, and that entire sequence in the market, in the street,
where he's jumping through that
the barbed wire,
yes.
the coil.
I just checked it. I was like, wow.
And let's not forget the aerial cartwheel between the panes of glass.
Yes.
And then he does the split slide under the truck. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like already those were crazy.
Born like this?
So you're going to slide in the splits. Like, just get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
And,
I mean, Van Damme did it static, right? And this guy's going under vehicles. I was just, who are you?
Mad what he can do. And that movie just changed how I looked at martial arts movies. Because
also, just quickly, because we're on the topic of crazy impact movement. Do you remember the sequence before he hops on the boat in the beginning, where they've got there's that character that has the cupping on the back, and then he kicks the guy into the wall. And
Yes, yes, yeah.
there's a scene where he side kicks the guy into the table, but you see the kick just go in and he break. Oh,
Like all the kicks
Wow.
land. All the kicks land in a way.
they crash. They don't even land.
Yeah.
They just crash through
Yeah.
the person.
And I'm sure they use this, prop wood and everything, but still, you can see the splinters sometimes. I'm like, my instinct was, I really don't want to mess with this guy. I would never, if I see this guy, just gonna.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm
that's
good.
it.
I'm good. I
Would you
don't.
like some coffee?
Yeah,
Just,
double espresso.
Yeah. Coconut sugar. We got everything.
Anything you want.
That's it. Whatever you need.
Man.
Man, I just, phenomenal. I was like, this guy's the next thing, for sure. I was like, wow.
And he wasn't. He did. I mean, he has a career, right? And he did The Protector with the elephants, again with a bone breaking.
Crazy. Just
every.
that.
I didn't like it as much as On Back because I think it went a bit too far with the breaking every single knee at every single punch.
True. Although I was so impressed with the sequences in that film, though the
Staircase, yeah, that
and hang on, let's talk about. I'm going to fight a mini boss, and I'm just gonna run up his body, backflip, kick him in the face through a window of a door, because
why not?
Let's just imagine someone's getting kicked, fine, but someone has to get kicked, getting run up by someone who's backflipping with the force, kicking you, and then you have to go through a restaurant door window and hang in the door. That's it.
But I just
Bam.
it's just mad.
Oh.
The things they can do, if you know what you're doing, but also the length of that scene and the physicality required on, even if they would have cheated it maybe in a place or two, how in the prime condition you have to be to do that scene is just mad.
And in that switch of the camera when he throws the guy off the balcony into the little hut of, we don't know if there's a map under there. That guy's probably dead. He's probably thank you.
Yeah.
Your money's gonna go to your family.
Yeah.
Just do this one stunt.
In memory of, and then all the stunt people in the memory of. This last.
And obviously it was fake,
400.
but the guy grabs the sink off the wall.
Yeah.
Goes to hit him. He knees and breaks.
Breaks.
Obviously it's not a real sink, but
No, still, I don't know. I mean,
porcelain. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, it probably wasn't porcelain, obviously,
But it still was something, right? That resembled it. It just, amazing. And then somehow he didn't really, translate it to the Western market as well. He appeared in the second Triple X with Vin Diesel in a small part.
Yeah, and then he had an appearance in Fast and Furious.
Yes.
And things like that. I personally think it's always to do with language. I think the English compared to say Jackie and Jet perhaps played a role.
But I'm sure he can learn it. I mean, he can learn to do those fucking things. You can learn English. It's not that.
Can't be good at everything, right?
That's true. Yeah.
So speaking English is the key, I think. If you can speak, even Mr. Belgium, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think that's a shame because, like I said, there's phenomenal talent, and then when you have seen him in some Western productions, he's underused. In fact, they don't even showcase 10%
of his skills for which you hire him.
Exactly.
Which is why I don't understand. So,
but they've always done that. Funnily enough, with a lot of these big Asian action performers that come over, the skills are never shown in the best way.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Right? Which is a shame.
Maybe it's insurance, or they just don't dare to unleash them. oh my God,
It
I'm
just-
afraid that something's gonna happen, and maybe they're more
I mean,
lenient with
it could
insurance.
be so many things. It could be maybe the editing, maybe the director wanted a different scene or different angle, but because sometimes a lot of Western crews don't shoot action the way Eastern crews do,
Cut. Everything's
or,
cut.
or even just not showcasing something in its entirety. Or and I remember hearing in an interview Jackie had a little bit of challenges even with Rush Hour, that he had a certain way he wanted to shoot it, and obviously the director had a different way, but they still managed to work it out. But if you do see it, I think it's not as dynamic as, say, Police Story.
Yeah.
Or some of the other things.
They
It's
should
still
just
great.
let them direct the scene and come up with the choreography, because they are masters at what they do. As a director, you might see, okay, I want to fight in a bar, whatever. Let them loose, unleash them. Dude, what do you want to do here? Who do you want to smash? How do you want to smash them?
yeah.
What do you want to do? And I'm going to frame my cameras around that. We'll do a test run, we'll do a light run, and then go crazy, Yeah.
100%.
Maybe you have to up the insurance a bit, just in case.
It's very disappointing, but yeah. So it's a shame but listen, just those two films has solidified him
Yeah, absolutely.
forever. Like no one can
He
say.
was in the last Expendables.
Yeah.
In a
I haven't seen the fourth.
I watched it.
Is it as bad as everyone says?
No, it's not as bad. It's just that they barely use Tonya whatsoever. I think he has 2 scenes where he fights, and again they don't showcase, because he fights alongside Jason Statham in the very same scene, and so there's just a lot of cuts.
Yeah.
And they don't really use him. If you take him out of the movie, it's the same bloody movie. And
It doesn't gain.
Megan Fox has more fight scenes than he does.
Yeah.
It kind of says where the direction went with the Expendables.
And it's amazing because you just how does that happen?
Megan Fox.
I've got all these, not just that, but you've got all these talents.
Yeah. They also brought in another guy we have to talk about, because we have to mention The Raid.
Iko Uwais, of course.
So he's in this movie.
Underused too.
He has a bigger screen time, and he has a couple of fight scenes where he's by himself. He's the main baddie, so to speak. So he's doing a lot of the fighting. So they used him better than Tonya, but again, not to the point where he could really stretch it.
Yeah.
Just
Let's say, I mean, The Raid. What can you say? I think it's set the bar for martial arts action movies since the last 10 years, for sure.
Yeah.
Nothing, in my opinion, has come
It's
close.
just non-stop action. Like, I remember watching it and I forgot to eat popcorn. It was just sitting there.
Because you didn't want to miss anything.
And I was like looking at this, but even my brain was so engaged in the action that my motor skills weren't functioning. It was like, it's still going on.
Yeah.
The time's ticking, and I'm like, it's just one big scene. And even in between, I'm just glad that he's still breathing. It's like, wow, that movie, The Raid, wow.
Again, had people recommend it to me. I was a bit late on the bandwagon. I didn't jump on it straight away when it came out. People told me, watched it. I was like, how did I not see this soon? I was like, what? But I think why it's so good is not just the talent of the performers and the action sequences, but it's the whole film as a whole. I think everything's firing at the same level. The acting, the tone, and I would even be interesting to see what you think, but I even would think it's kind of martial art horror genre.
Yes.
Because the intensity and tension you feel in the film, he's trying to survive, and it's this visceral feeling of being alone. All of his team are wiped out.
It's almost like a zombie movie, but they're not zombies.
That's right.
If you swap it with
absolutely.
zombies, it's like a zombie movie, and you just constant wave of zombies coming in the corridors.
Threats
Yeah,
from all
it's-
corners.
yeah.
And I think that's why it works, because it's something different, something new. But that's what I really enjoyed, is the stakes. You felt that there were stakes there. You felt like,
It's not a competition.
or as in he's not invincible.
Yeah.
This guy could die. He could get very badly injured. It's not, some of these action films where it's like,
Yeah, when they're circling someone and they're attacking one by one. I always used to love that, just we're waiting, you can see.
of course.
Okay, it's not my turn yet. You almost can come. Okay, now I'm going.
And I think that's what made it such a fresh breath of fresh air. There's all of this, the intensity, the pace, the speed of which it's moving along. It's, I even thought about it the other day, because there's an anniversary of the Raid screening coming up soon, and again, reading into Bruce Lee, I feel like inspirations were taken from the Game of Death,
Yes.
because they've got to go up.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's interesting how it goes full circle with your inspirations from the masters and legends from before, how that can be taken and adapted and changed. And
Never see this connection until now. Now that you're mentioning it, yeah, absolutely.
and in the film he has to get up to the boss who's at the top, and it's just like working your way.
Yeah.
And the same thing, Bruce Lee in the film had allies who were beaten up, so he had to go by himself. Same thing with the character. It's exactly that, and just.
It also has that video game aspect, because if you think about it, in all these video games, when you beat someone, you go up on the level and you go up.
Yeah.
It almost has the same visual representation of have to get to the boss.
Loop. Yeah.
The big boss up in the
What's
tower.
at the very top.
Yeah.
And I just remember some of the standout brutality moments, like when he headbutts, when he head slams the guy like 3-4 times and walk. Pop, pop, pop,
Yeah,
pop.
oh god, that's so cool. And a part of me doesn't understand how they actually did that practically. Because was it really a guy's head? Because if it was, there's a certain weight to it. So after you do the first one, how do you do the second, the third, the fourth? Even if it didn't look like a rubber head either. So anyways, just oh man, the certain things that don't understand how they really do them.
The backwards jump through the door and slam on the head of slam on the door frame, the splintered. I saw that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, definitely a horror aspect.
Gore, things like that.
Yeah.
And especially when they're looking for him and he's in the wall and they do this and it goes here.
Yeah.
He goes to stop the blood because the blood is on the machete and he doesn't want them to see. So
Yes.
he puts his hand there and he wipes
Wipes it. Yeah.
Just.
Yeah. It's mad. Yeah. I like the originality of the Asian, martial arts. There's something different.
Again, a different style too.
Yeah.
They demonstrated something different. Penchaxalat.
Completely new. So part of me just wonders what's going to be next. What's left? Will they go back? You can't go back to karate. You can't go back to, we didn't talk about Karate Kid. You can't go back to the point system, to the,
Yes, but it has its place. I feel like when you look at Cobra Kai,
yeah.
it's a guilty pleasure because I feel like it does what it's supposed to do right. It's not going to take anything new by storm, but if you were a fan of the films, I feel like there's such a love letter to that, and it makes you have that feel-good era.
I watched the first 2 seasons and it was better than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I was like...
And you end up wanting to watch more, and each season for me so far, in my opinion, they got better each season. I was like, this is great. They'd add characters and they'd reference the second, third, fourth films. But that's how you create a world. They knew what they were doing. They stuck to the rules, and it was great.
But they changed so much because they brought weird comedy elements to it. I remember when the 2 guys who want to clean the poster go up and they say, oh, look at this, it's dog shit. And they're like, do you see a dog walking up these stairs? So Johnny actually took a crap there. It's like,
But again, it's I think the thing with the franchises and when you build a world, you want to keep it fresh. So what can you add without compromising the original spirit, the original vision? And you can still add these things to make them relevant or make them updated. So I think it was great. Like
Yeah,
you
it
say,
was.
they weren't there originally, but when you add them together, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You're not meant to take it so seriously, but
It's definitely not as serious.
no,
Yeah,
but when
it's
it
just-
works, like it's great. Like you're in it, you're
Yeah.
like, this is awesome. But the soundtrack and even the flip on bringing the bad guy back
and making him
the
not,
main,
yeah,
and then making the good guy kind of a bad guy.
yeah, kind of a dick.
It was great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
watch the next one because honestly, I think it's what season 3, season 4.
4 now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
I watched the first 2 and I just, there's so much
And so
content
much to
and at some point,
But
I
again,
forgot.
but I honestly, that
Eagle fang.
it's just
Do eagles have fangs?
it was so good. Like I think just as a fan of any world building, I just think it was so great. Like
Yeah.
did it have martial arts that would be groundbreaking, change everything? No.
No.
But people who wanted to watch it were because they were fans of the Karate Kid, and did they get what they wanted? Yes, and more. And I think that's effective. I think that's what you want. If you've got, when we talk about Expendables and things like that, I feel like that's the direction you want to go in with, not in terms of say tone, but just in how they've crafted it. Because I feel like they cared about where the films were going.
Yes.
Whether fans liked the story or not,
But they were fans who created it.
And they brought the characters in, and they, So I think I've honestly given the other 2 seasons a go because guilty pleasure. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But coming back to your point about karate, I think so. I think it can come back. It's just how do we present it? As I said, everything's workable. It's just how do you present it in a exciting and interesting way. Let me add a point to your point, which is, well, have you seen a film called Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes.
So they were using traditional kung fu, which for most people would think it's dated or not usable. But look at how they brought it in a sci-fi and added fresh elements, and it was like, wow.
The movie was bonkers. I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of the movie, but it was bonkers, and the martial arts elements were really good.
Yeah, but you can appreciate because again, they're trying something different. They're giving it a new coat of paint. There,
Yeah, it was.
And look, it won an Oscar, which just goes to show you that you can have a full Asian-led cast in the West with a martial arts sci-fi movie, which is not commercial by any standards.
No. For me, they lost me at the hot dog thumbs.
Yeah.
That was for me the moment where my brain went,
of course,
wow, what am I watching? Maybe I have to revisit it at some point. I don't hate that movie because I don't have any. I always appreciate originality, even if it's not my cup of tea, so to speak. So for me it was a bit of.
Hey, we're all allowed, opinions and choices. But just to tell you from just a filmmaking point of view, it was just so. It would maybe now because CGI is a lot more advanced, it's not the same. But it was kind of like a new Matrix. It was so different in its approach and everything. It won an Oscar. And it made money. It's. I feel like it's contributed to change in the filmmaking landscape for people thinking that maybe a Western-led Asian American movie might not make a lot of money. Like it is commercially viable.
Yeah,
and it's got martial arts in it.
Yeah,
and it's kung fu stuff, and it's sci-fi. I think people want different things now. People want more exciting things. They want what they know, but with upgrades, right? So. With that, coming back to the karate point, I think it's possible. It's just how do they present it in a refreshing way?
Yeah.
Or how can you make karate interesting? We passed over this performer in particular, but this leads into what I'm telling you. Let's look at Ip Man, for example.
Donnie Yen, yeah.
Wing Chun, he brought a massive resurgence and interest in the martial art just because of the film. When it wasn't perhaps necessarily in, people were maybe thinking it was dated to see on the screen, but look at how they made it so visceral and so dynamic.
Yes.
And so,
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good point. It's
so
about how you reframe it, how do you make something
yeah,
that people know fresh again.
exactly.
Yeah.
And again, Donnie, an amazing performer.
Yes, absolutely.
Ip Man's SPL.
There's quite a few. I haven't seen as many because we don't get them to see them in cinemas here, as much.
Yeah.
What's the other one that he had?
Flashpoint.
Yes, Flashpoint. I've heard of that. Yeah.
And again, different style, different approach to Jackie and Jet Li.
Yeah.
But I feel he brought the sex appeal. He went more the model, good-looking guy, brought mixed martial arts into it. He started adding in groundwork, locks. You see all of that. He added those things that weren't in the other two's fighting.
Yes.
Again, bringing different things. See, so you can see that each of them have to carve their own path in a different way. And you can see because, he had that handsome, pretty boy kind of look.
He's almost like a model. You
like
don't
a
see
K-pop
him
kind of, yeah.
kicking ass in a way. You're like,
you get the open jacket, the singlet, the vest, and he worked on that, and that worked in his favor.
yeah, it's true. In China, he's a huge star. Yeah.
And also overshadowed by the other two in the beginning. I think because they were all around at the same time. If you look at Shanghai Noon or Shanghai Night,
Yes.
they were both in the same film.
Yeah.
And I feel, once Jet Li disappeared, because to be honest, Jackie started to slow down and retired a bit and all that. Then it was Donnie's turn, and then you saw him come out with Rogue One, Triple X2, Triple X3. He's just started to come back, and then John Wick 4.
Yes, John.
So, yeah, it's, again, I think everyone has their moment. So
it's his time. It's his time. You know who should be a lot bigger than he is, and I don't, for the love of it, I don't understand why he's not.
Okay.
Scott Adkins.
Yes.
Why is Scott Adkins not a superstar? Because he has the looks, he has the acting chops. I mean, he can pull off some really, really good dramatic stuff, and he's got the ability that I'd say Jean-Claude Van Damme never had. So, look at Boyka, for example. Why is he not a lot bigger than he is?
It's a very good question. And funnily enough, again, another performer that I wasn't completely familiar with. I wasn't exposed to a lot of Scott Adkins' work in Australia and Malaysia personally. More in recent years was I able to kind of see more of his work and then recognize him in films and things like that. It's hard to say because, like you say, he's got all the things that's required. So is it a case of timing? Is it a case of maybe Statham beat him to the punch, or maybe there was enough space for one type of performer like that? It's hard to say, but you're right. He definitely should be doing crazier and bigger things. I mean, when you saw John Wick 4 was amazing what he did in that. Especially, Boyka, like, you can't question the skill. It's there.
I mean, he hijacked the Undisputed franchise, right?
Exactly.
It was the first one was about boxing with Wesley Snipes and Wing Rames, and then you have the second one with Michael J. White, who's another great martial artist, and again, don't exactly know what's going on there, and then he just hijacked the whole thing, and the Boyka's just wow. And the dramatic part, the accent, the looks, the whole thing, he totally says it. He's British.
Yeah. And actually, I went to watch the premiere of Avengement, and I was there with my director friend Jean-Paul, who I work with in his team, and we went to watch the film. And funnily enough, he was there as well.
Okay.
So I got to meet him really briefly, and that was really, really exciting. But yeah, after seeing that film too, I was like, wow, this is...
He's got the skills. He's got, and he backed up Jean-Claude Van Damme quite a few times in different movies, even Universal Soldier, I think, and
Yeah.
Hard Target 2. He's like,
he fought Donnie Yen in Ip Man.
Yeah.
He's
everywhere somehow.
He's fought Jason Statham. He's fought,
Yeah. Yeah, he was in The Expendables. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I kept forgetting. He's always the sidekick somehow in these movies. He's never. I mean, on the B market, he's a name, and for people who are fans of martial art movies, you know who he is, and you definitely, but not the large market. I don't know.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it, when you see that type of thing? Yeah, it could just be that perhaps he's been typecasted, or maybe because he's done a lot of action films, as you say, on the B movie side, that perhaps it's hard to get out of that, maybe. But hoping with John Wick 4, that's going to change some things.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think.
But yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You can have someone that's got all the pieces, but seems to... Why is no one taking notice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's as you said, it's the timing, or maybe Jason Statham beat him to the punch, and there was just room for one, British white.
Exactly. Bald.
I mean, one's bald, the other one isn't. So,
but it's,
maybe it's the baldness, or the accent. Who knows? Yeah. I think we should talk about the ladies a bit, because it was very all men, and I get it, But I was a huge fan of Cynthia Rothrock.
Yes.
As a kid.
OG, yes.
Yeah. And she's still kicking ass, not in movies, but she's still, at different conferences and stuff like that. And I think for some reason, the market doesn't really want to believe women as martial artists or as people who can actually kick ass. I mean, they tried with different genres. Hollywood tried with Electra. They tried with DOA. That
Dead or Alive.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, they did try with certain movies, Charlie's Angels, but somehow I don't know if it translated into what it should be.
I agree with you. I also think that maybe the difference is a lot of those high-profile films, the actresses themselves are not martial artists.
Most of the times they're not.
And that lends a lot to credibility and believability. You can train an actress to be amazing, and movement, of course, but I think at the time, like when you look at Electra or Charlie's Angels, they did what they needed to, and I think it was probably stunt doubles. So maybe the audience just doesn't believe it because they've never seen legit, real martial artists, females, or at least have been exposed to it commercially. So funnily enough, with Cynthia, same thing, not someone that I was exposed to much growing up in terms of films or anything like that. But as I started to watch more action films and be more familiar with the industry and genre, and was familiar with her work and saw her skill set, and it's amazing. Undeniable. Like if you look at what she's done in the real world outside of film in martial arts, I don't think I know that many people that have that many black belts and have won that many competitions. Like, it's insane. But when you see her perform on camera, you can understand. But again, maybe it's the Western culture that are not always used to seeing female martial artists back then, perhaps, on camera as much in their own films.
Yeah.
Potentially. So I think it's changed a lot recently between Charlize Theron doing Atomic Blonde and things like that. Like I feel feel like
But then it's all stunt people who are doing
100%.
everything because
but it's a lot more believable than it used to be a few years before. Like obviously she's gonna work up to a certain extent, but I feel like they're committing more, so the audience I think reacts better to that when they go, okay, I can see that you're putting in the effort. You know, like Keanu Reeves, for example. You know, he's not high kicking, jumping, twisting, turning, but the audience sees he's physically putting himself in.
yes, yeah,
And I think that's the difference. I think you, as a fan and someone who's watching something, you go, okay, they're not half-assing it, they're not tiptoeing.
look at the Matrix Trinity, right?
Mm.
So the Matrix, even though it's not necessarily a martial arts movie, it definitely has a lot of martial arts in it. So Trinity and all that, I totally believed those scenes. And Carrie Moss, yeah, she sold the role.
Well, apparently, Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves trained for about 6 to 8 months before film.
Yeah.
And the choreographer was Yuan Ping. So it is technically a martial arts film.
It is. Yeah. You're right.
But again, she didn't advertise herself as an action actress afterwards. So, yeah, but no one questioned it too, like you say, because of the credibility. Like it was actually her doing the kick behind the back of the head and everything.
Yeah.
And that was just.
I think it's a shame that no female martial artists really, got out there. And maybe, as you said, like things now because of Charlize Theron and her work in Atomic Blonde, and there was another one where there's this group of immortals, Old Guard, and this new wave. Because I'm not going to talk about Aeon Flux because that movie was just bonkers again. But even there, she has a lot of. But yeah, it was too much stuff going on.
How can we not also quickly? I can't believe we've skipped her, Mila Jovovich.
Resident Evil, yes, yeah, it's true.
I mean, feel how you want about it, but she actually led this wave of action for a little while too.
Yeah,
and I remember always going to the cinemas to watch her films and everything.
All she did for probably 10 years were Resident Evil movies. I mean, she's married to the director, which makes it easier. But yeah, she's putting in.
And Underworld, Kate Beckinsale.
I never really believed her as a martial artist.
Of course.
Because of the vampire aspect and everything.
But just she did quite a lot of actions. I mean, mind you, guns and everything, sure. Yeah. But yeah, so there seemed to be a little bit of periods of time where there were women doing a lot of action films. But like you say, are they legit martial artists? Perhaps not all of them. But yeah, it's not something you see very often, that's for sure.
I mean, the thing is, it's so interesting that some of them kind of choose or not choose to go down a certain path. For example, Wesley Snipes, right? He started as a dramatic actor and then he went off to become Blade and then, martial art movies, Passenger 40, 50, something, a number.
Yeah.
And then
I'm thinking 47, but I could be wrong.
56, 47. He's one of the passengers on a plane, and then from there, all the other action movies.
Yeah.
For example, not many people know, but Robert Downey Jr. is a black belt, and he's doing no martial art movies. He's Robert Downey Jr., right? Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting how some choose to go down that route, and they might not be legitimate, martial artists.
And maybe some just do it recreationally as just self-defense.
Yeah.
And it's not part of, that path, I suppose.
I there's a part of me that really hopes that there will be a reinvention of the genre, and maybe the kid in me, the nostalgia, wants another wave of early 90s movies where you just have, good old school ass whooping,
80s action.
Without all the CGI, and maybe the new generation won't believe it because there is no CGI, and that kind of makes me a bit sad. Because if this is the new norm now, right, and there's nothing to do, like, where do we go from here? Where does action go? Where does martial arts go? And I'm sure that, there will be surprises and changes, and it will evolve into something else. I just wonder where the direction will be.
I think as long as you have people still keeping it alive in whatever shape, whether it's in its purest form or whether it's in diluted forms or adapted forms, as long as there's still people doing something with it, I'm hopeful it'll still stay around, because it's one of those things where I think you can't not have it. It's, you know, despite what everyone says, a lot of people love action films, and even more so, a lot of people like martial art films, and so I think there'll always be a niche. I think it'll just fluctuate. It'll maybe, like you said right now, maybe take a bit of a sleep, and then it'll come back and everyone's like, wow, this is great. But it's, more importantly, I think they need to try and bring the quality with the action, because it's always been a case of action at the cost of story, or at the cost of not a great film, but you're watching it for the entertainment aspect. I think as soon as filmmakers and, you know, people get to bridge the two of having great storytelling and great action, I think that's when you start to see a resurgence in that, because it's good across the board, right? It's not just let's throw away, we'll just watch it for the fight scenes. Like, you want it to
a mixture of to get the, you know, good soup.
That's right.
So to speak.
Where they're no longer B movies, they're A movies.
Yeah.
I think that's where it has to go. Anyway.
Hopefully. Dude, it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Always good to see you. Thank
Good
you
to
for
see
having
you,
me.
and hope to see you around.
Yeah, you too.
Different project.
I'm sure very soon.